Is life meant to be a series of quick, correct decisions in succession? Finding our one perfect path and staying on it without ever leaving it? Is it really so important to get things right the first time? Or could it be that life is the wandering and the mysterious process of unfurling and trying many times and never knowing exactly where it will lead us? The obsession with forward motion in our culture has exhausted most of us. As a new week begins, I will often find myself thinking of all the tasks I have ahead of me and how I need to forge through to the result. And yet this mindset leaves me feeling blank and uninspired, the breath sucked from the creation. So in recent weeks, I have been on a journey, returning to the breath, returning to the soft, warm cradling of the creative process. And it means leaving behind a framework that has been hurting all of us. I'm going to take a sip of my coffee before we get into today's very introspective conversation. I'm so excited to share it with you. Okay, I think I am ready. I think I'm ready for this conversation. Hello, my beautiful friends and fellow space blobs, or however you want to identify yourselves. I am sitting here on the floor of my apartment. I've got the dog in the background. I've got my coffee beside me, and I am ready to talk about a concept that has been kind of building in my mind over the last few weeks. And I finally got so excited about it that I had to come to my ritual spot where I love to chat with you all and talk about it. And I'm very curious to see what ideas or thoughts you have on this topic after I've shared mine and see how we can continue this conversation and explore it together. So I want to talk about the word efficiency today. This is a really multifaceted word, and I'd never really thought about how many levels there are to the concept of this word until I started to think about it and sit down with it and explore it. And then I just discovered there's just a whole world within this one word. Initially, I want to acknowledge that the word efficiency is, of course, tied to the environmental movement and some really beautiful work that has to do with simplifying and clarifying and coming into what we really need and how we do that. And there's a lot of innovation and creativity that can be connected to this word, right? And I think it's important to kind of understand that concept of efficiency is very much there and a really positive way to connect with this word. And we want to put that right up front that exists within this conversation, right? Because I'm about to get into the shadow side of efficiency and some of the ways that this has also really impacted the way we move through the world. Because for me, that kind of valorous side of efficiency, if we think about it as being able to be centered, to be clear, to get right to the point, to utilize our energy and intention in such a way that, we're really going straight towards the heart of something and taking care of it without treading water, without flailing around, without, utilizing resources we don't need to utilize. Something interesting has been happening, though, in this word and in this culture over the last few hundred years, because as we have lived in a more and more efficient society, surrounded by all these efficient systems of computers and logistics and things that probably I am taking for granted right now. Once again, also, efficiency can be a really beautiful, powerful thing and affects the way we live our lives. However, while all of that has been building over the last few hundred years, and while we've been innovating and creating, there's been a side effect to the way that we connect with this concept of efficiency, right? Because whereas before, when this word is used in that clarifying simplification, it feels pretty good, right? It feels pretty connected. It feels kind of creative. This other form of the word is this idea of immediacy and expediency, really. And it's this constant pressure to always be on your best game, to always be efficient as a person. I think there are so many cultural messages around this that have been stressing everybody out for a really long time. And in this version of the word efficiency, it's this idea that we are only moral and upright citizens and mature and responsible when we're getting right to it, when we're being efficient, when we just get to an answer, when we just define ourselves, when we just do the efficient immediate thing. We can see it spilling over into the immediacy of our world, where we are expected to answer texts and emails all the time, immediately, where we are expected to leave our intuitive guidance systems behind in order to make sure we get to places on time, make the train on time, be efficient with our scheduling, with the way we use our time in the day. There are constant messages that we need to be efficient if we are allowed to exist in this world. And if we aren't efficient in these ways that basically ask us to steamroll ourselves, to ignore ourselves, to cut ourselves off and force things to happen so that we are in immediacy, there's this constant underlying cultural threat that we're going to be left behind, that we are going to fail. Even this concept of YOLO that was so popular of 10 or 15 years ago, you only live once, there was always this undergirding kind of sense that you need to be efficiency with the amount of adventure and joy that you're having in your life. You need to make sure you're packing it in. You need to make sure you're getting on with it. And I think this has been very stressful for so many of us. And ironically enough, I think that this definition of efficiency is actually the exact opposite of that original meaning of the word. Because think about it. When we are constantly pushing ourselves, ignoring our body's needs, ignoring our spirit's calling, ignoring that we need 10 minutes to breathe before we go do the thing, ignoring that we need to cancel something, ignoring that it doesn't feel good to be in immediacy, constant availability 24/7, we end up leaking our energy out into the world constantly. We're just leaking it, watching it just flow. There it goes. It's gone, it's gone, it's gone. And then what happens? It's harder to have meaningful conversations. It's harder to get focused work done for that 5 or 10 minutes. A project that maybe would take 5 minutes and be kind of light and easy can end up taking an hour if we're doing it because we're forcing ourselves and we're really tired, right? I think that's the interesting part about this whole dynamic and this whole narrative, all the pressure in the word efficiency. In the end, what it does is it's the last thing that it is. We become these energy leaking, exhausted people. And that's where we are in our culture right now. It makes me think of a wash machine that, we think that the most efficient setting will be 30 minutes, the fast setting, right? Because it'll take 30 minutes and our laundry is done. But of course, wash machines these days, if you put it on the 4-hour cycle, that's actually the more efficient one. It really utilizes the resources, the water, the energy in a really meaningful way so that our clothes are very clean, but we're not just rushing through it and expending a whole bunch of energy doing it, right? And I think that's actually a really good metaphor for how we treat ourselves and how we connect with ourselves. I also think another really interesting element of this conversation goes to our seeking and our exploration. And I know so many of us here are doing that. We're introspective. We want to understand what it means to live a life, what it means to be ourselves, how to connect with that. Because I also think our culture, in this obsession with efficiency and getting right to the point and not waffling about and being mature and finding the right path, is that just that idea that there's one right path for each of us. There's one right vocation. There's one right soulmate. There's one right identity that we need to land on. There's one right something, right? There's this obsession in a lot of our culture and this global internet culture of finding that one right thing, the one purpose for my life here on this earth. For me, that's the efficiency conversation, sneaking right into places it has no business being. Because here's the thing, I really do not believe that we were meant to have just one purpose, one straight road, that we have to we get born, we come here and we have to find our one straight road and get on it. And then just that's it. For me, that doesn't make any sense. And yet so many of us are walking around feeling like we're doing it wrong because we're wandering around and we make a choice and it doesn't quite work out and we feel a little weird about it. And then we're like, oh, I just moved into this house, but it feels really wrong. And now I need to move again. There's probably something wrong with me because I'm not being efficient with my choices. We're judging ourselves for the fact that we have to make nuanced decisions that aren't clear cut, that don't just give us entrance to a nice singular road, right? Wouldn't it be so nice if I could just know what to do and be exactly there on the right time in the right place. However, I really believe we are meant to meander. We are meant to even sometimes lose our path or go off path or be on one path for a while, and then we go off path, and then we find another path, and it's a really cool path that takes us to places we never thought we were going to be, and then we're on that path for a while. Like, I really believe that when we let go of this pressure to be efficient in the way we live our lives, in the way that we use our time in just a typical day, in the way that we make our decisions, we're actually much more likely to be in touch with the decisions we really want to make. And for me, once we let go of efficiency as kind of the undergirding quality to all the things we're trying to do in a day, all the things we're trying to accomplish in a week, in a month, once we get out of that efficiency model of boss babe and I'm in charge and I'm hustling over here, whatever it is, once we get out of that, other words come in to replace that as the model, right? Connectivity, centeredness, clarity, a sense of calm and spaciousness that allows us to connect with however our steps are guiding us. And that can often actually really be less demanding on our energy, on our bodies, on our spirits. And when we stop chasing efficiency, we're able to come into clarity. We're able to come into that simplicity that I think we're all so longing for. But really, I think for me, this has been a really interesting, introspective time exploring this word, exploring this concept, because I've realized how much this idea of efficiency has been affecting my stress levels over the last few years. I have been going through a lot of really kind of intense decision making about where to live in the world, the lifestyle to have. I've had to make some really tough choices that it was not clear sometimes, what's going to be the right thing, what's going to be the thing that's going to make the most sense, what's going to be the thing that I stick with, for all time. There was all this pressure. And even now, the pressure to answer emails or always be checking things. These things were really like haunting me. It was like this little spirit, walking around with me, expecting me to just get on with it, mature, be efficient, get on it. And I realized how much that's played a role in my decision making, in the way I treat myself in the day-to-day, in the way I create. And I'm really tired of it. I am really tired of getting bullied by this kind of larger than life cultural message around needing to be an efficient person, to be a moral or a good person, to be a correct person, to be allowed to be alive in this world. For me, letting go of that and really honoring that I am meant to meander. I am meant to wander around. I am meant to not know where I'm going, but then to check in with myself and just take a little step. I am meant to sometimes just say, no, I'm not answering messages today because I need to be with my spirit. And it's so important to have a little bit of that rebelliousness against this forced expediency model that our culture is so obsessed with. I think it's really, really, really powerful. So I want to hear what you all have to say about this. What is your experience with this word? Have you ever thought about it before? Are you like me where you've just started to uncover the layers, or maybe you have a history with this word or your own experiences with it? I really would love to hear. So yeah, let me know what you feel about this conversation. If it connected any dots for you, I would really love to hear that. I am also going to continue this conversation. We've been doing this awesome series over on my Patreon, Weaves, Webs, and Wending. It has been so much fun. We're coming to the end of it, but it's going to be available all summer and into the autumn for all my patrons. So if you haven't joined me there, it's a 4-week series where I just help us connect to that kind of weaving, wending rhythm of our spirits and our bodies and our creativity again, coming back into some of that medicine, getting out of some of this efficiency mindset that's causing so much distress and exhaustion and burnout in our culture. So I'd really love to see you there. We are also going to be doing an amazing deep dive with Venus retrograde. I am planning a 6-week journey as she does that retrograde because I so love that transit. So that's also going to be on Patreon. I would love to see you there for all of that this coming summer. You can also find me on my Instagram. I would love to see you there as well as here. Obviously, we're going to keep having these amazing conversations. Yeah, I'm going to go have a non-efficient hour and just take care of myself and take some deep breaths and be with my spirit. And I hope you all have a beautiful day, night, morning, wherever you are. Keep being you, trust in yourself and your meandering path, and we will talk again very, very soon.